Well, hey, good morning, Westwood. How are we today? Good, excellent. Hey, if we have not met yet, my name is Rob. I'm one of the pastors here and just really excited to be before you this morning and be able to continue in our conversations on our series Rooted as we explore different spiritual discipline and we really lean into the Psalms for the foundation. And this morning we get to also get very response-driven and get some application for us as well. But before we get to all of that, can we talk about one of my favorite TV shows for a moment? Is that all right? I have the microphone, so I'm going to talk about it anyway. One of my favorite TV shows, I can feel there's some people that are a little bit nervous right now. What way is this going to go? You don't know me well enough to know. But one of my favorite shows, my dad and I started watching it probably 10, 15 years ago. I don't know how long it's been on. Still watch it to today, and that's Shark Tank. All right, see, a couple of people are like, oh, okay, a normal show. That's good. He may continue. But I love it. If you don't know what Shark Tank is, it's a business show in a way where entrepreneurs or investors come before a group of unimaginably wealthy and brilliant businessmen and women to pitch their ideas, to say, here is the way that I, unlike everybody else, am going to change the world. Or maybe just here's how I'm going to make us all a lot of money. But I enjoy hearing it. I enjoy seeing the creativity of people. And I like seeing people humbled a little bit with tough questions. It's kind of fun when it's not me. And so I enjoy watching this. And there's not always deals that strike, but when there are, it's usually an exchange. It's saying, I'm asking for this amount of money from you, and in return, I will give you either this portion of my business, a part of the sales, whatever it may be. We won't go down the rabbit trail of lingo that we could throw in there. But it's this give and take. And when you take a step back, what the investors are really looking for is an answer, and sometimes they ask it directly, but an answer to the question, what's in it for me? Because as we all know, nothing is free. You're not standing before someone asking for $500,000 out of the goodness of someone's heart. They want to know, what can I expect to receive in return? And the truth is, this line of thinking is not limited to shows like Shark Tank. We do this each and every day. We do this throughout our day as we consider the opportunity cost of every single decision and opportunity before us. What's in it for me? And so often, as we shift to this morning's topic of serving, so often we enter into opportunities for service with that question saying, well, if I step forward, if I give up my time and my energy, what's in it for me? What do I gain from this? What's the purpose? What's the point? And I think when we do that, we start to miss the heart of the matter. We start to miss the reason why the people of God are called to serve. And so this morning, this is not a Shark Tank type pitch, but we're going to have a conversation about what biblically rooted and defined serving actually is, beyond the question, what's in it for me? We're going to be answering three questions regarding the discipline of serving. Who, the what, and the why. That is, what is serving? Why are we serving? And who are we actually serving when we do? And then thankfully, in a little bit, I'm not going to be up here by myself. We have a couple people coming up to share their own experiences with serving and responding or leaning into God. And then we're going to talk about some practical ways that you can be involved in the ministry here at Westwood, especially as we kick off this fall. So yes, there is an ask, but this is not a Shark Tank pitch, because the underlying thing is it's an ask to be involved in God's kingdom and the work that He just happens to be doing here at Westwood and radiating outward. So let's dive in. I invite you to turn with me to Psalm 37 as we lay the foundation with the writings of David this morning. And if you're using one of the pew Bibles, you can go ahead and turn to page 466. Studying God's Word is one of our disciplines that we study in this combination of work, worship, and service. And I think these are really great words to tie together as we're talking about serving. Work, worship, and service. Austin Burkhardt, an author, talks about this term. He says, it's a picture of integrated faith, a life where work and worship come from the same root, the same foundation. He argues, he says, it suggests that our work can be a form of worship where we honor the Lord God and serve our neighbor. You see, this is more in line with the type of serving that we're talking about. Work, worship, service, all wrapped up together within the Christian context. And when we look at our passage of Psalm 37, David's language, we translate into the phrase, do good. And even this helps us understand a little bit more of the type of serving that we're talking about. When we serve, when we work, when we worship and provide services for others, it should be with the intention of doing good. In Philippians 2, 1 through 4, Paul writes about serving and refers to it as not only looking to our own interests, that's easy, but looking to the interests of those around us. I don't like that. That's hard. So we build our definition of serving. We add in an element of looking to the good of others along with the idea of work, worship, and service combined together. And this is an idea that's carried throughout Scripture. We're called to love and serve those around us, meeting the real needs of real people. But even then, sometimes we can focus so much on defining something that we can miss at what's at the core, and here, what's at the core of biblically rooted serving. According to David in Psalm 37, at the core of serving this way of life is a desire to confide in the Lord and conform to him. What we see is that the call to do good follows the command to delight in the Lord, which should be seen as a privilege, not merely a duty. So serving starts with delighting in the Lord, where we place our trust in him. And then we put that trust into action by doing good and looking to the needs of others. Our relationship with God, when he changes our lives, should change everything about us and motivate us in every area of our lives to be more like him. This is serving. Relational obedience to God Almighty. As Psalm 37:5 states, it's about committing your way to the Lord. You see, serving is about trusting in God and allowing him to work in and through you. In a book on leadership, Ken Blanchett and Phil Hodges write this. They say, Jesus affirmed that God is not looking for leaders, but for servants who will let him be the leader and who will focus first on the kingdom of God. See, when we serve a God who is looking for obedient servants who will allow him to lead and whose lives have been changed by him. So in answer to our own question, what is serving? Serving is a response to the saving work of Jesus that propels us to work, worship, and provide service for the sake of other people. Serving is all about the grace of Jesus and an opportunity to be a light for him. It's rooted in trusting in God, actively doing good, delighting in the Lord, and engaging in service within whatever your own unique life context may be. So this takes us to a relatively easy transition to, okay, then why are we serving? We've kind of talked about what is it, why are we? Well, it continues. For the Christian, for the Christ follower, it should be as simple as following the commands of Jesus. In John chapter 15, Jesus says it simply, he says, this is my command, that you love one another as I have loved you. Jesus' desire is for his people to love one another with the same selfless, humble love that he has poured into each of us each and every day. It's this type of love that compels us to look for other ways to meet the needs of people around us. Why? Because we should long to do it because we see what God is doing in our own lives. Galatians 5:13-14, Paul writes this. He says, for you were called to freedom. Brothers, only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. For the whole law is fulfilled in one word. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Paul is telling us as we step into a personal relationship with Jesus, that his saving grace should be what motivates us to long to serve people. For it's this is the core of God's law for his people. The Christian should daily desire to love their neighbor. That means meeting needs through serving our neighbors. In another leadership book, Designed to Lead by Eric Greiger and Kevin Peck, they lay out the argument that we should find joy in serving because we're
rejoicing more in what God is doing in us than simply what he is doing through us. And they would say that our awe for what he has done for us surpasses our shock or our amazement at what he does through us. And I love this, that we should be rejoicing more in what God is doing within us than what he is doing through us. If we circle back to Psalm 37, we see that when we lean into the Lord, when we trust him, when we do good and delight ourselves in the Lord, that he will give us the desires of our heart. Now that sounds good, but requires a question. What are the desires of my heart? Well, for the Christ follower, it should be to be drawn closer into a relationship with the living God. When we commit ourselves to God, when we do good in him and for him, we're able to know him more. So why do we serve? We serve in an awe-fueled response to what God has done within our own hearts. That's what motivates us. That's what gives us the why that we so often look for. We love, we serve, because Jesus first loved and served us. In him we have freedom, not for whatever worldly pleasure or passion we may want to pursue, but freedom to proclaim his majesty through humbly meeting the practical and tangible needs of those around us. We serve because we delight in the Lord. We delight and are compelled to serve because serving is a wholehearted response to God's love and grace. I think John Piper phrases our motivation for serving well with this quote. He says, God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in him. To be satisfied in him means we are delighting in his generosity, and that inevitably flows in acts of love and service towards others. God's design for our service is not just to meet our needs, but to spread a passion for his supremacy in all things. Piper says, when we serve in ways that point to his worth, we participate in his mission of making himself known. We serve others to make Jesus known because we're in awe of what he has done in us. So with that, the question is, who am I actually serving? Because we could make an argument, am I serving myself? Am I serving others? Am I serving God? And we could have a short answer to that. We could say, yes. But it's important to look at those three possibilities to really understand who we're serving. To answer this question, 1 Peter 4, 10 through 11 provides a good framework. Peter says, as each has received a gift, use it to serve one another. As good stewards of God's very grace, whoever speaks as one who speaks oracles to God, whoever serves as one who serves by the strength that God supplies, in order that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. To him belong glory and dominion forever and ever. So even with the help of Peter, we see that the three responses of self, others, and God have some ground to stand on, but let's look briefly at each one to better understand who we're serving. We'll do the human thing. We'll start with ourselves. When you lean into the gifts of God in your life, when you act as a good steward of what he has given you, there is a personal benefit because you are living in the vein and way in which God intended you to be. The more we obediently rise to the call to utilize the gifts of God, the more we're able to partner with this incredible divine being in his mission, and the more we know his heart for humanity. So yes, there is an impact in your own life when you come to serve joyfully and obediently. And so in a way, you're serving yourself, but really, we consider ourselves and our response with God to be more of a byproduct of our obedience to him. We're not the focus receiving the work and the serving in that moment. And so that takes us, if it's not really us, if there is some byproduct response in my relationship with God, but I'm not the focus of serving, let's take it out a step more to other people. Now, in the Bible, we are to do good for others. We're to pray and care for people. We're to see people as God's workmanship. And even in these verses from Peter, we're called to use our gifts for the purpose, he says, of serving one another. We're called to be other-focused. And so naturally we can say in confidence that we're serving other people when we step into areas of service. Author F.F. Bruce once said, service is the natural expression of love. Love is the outward manifestation of service. The call of love and the actions of serving are linked and build off one another. So yes, when we step into an opportunity to serve, we are impacting those that we come in contact with. But the core answer to who am I serving is not myself, it's not others, it's God himself. When we embrace the gifts God has given us, when we choose others over self, it's with the intentionality that God has blessed and glorified. Yet it's not out of obligation that we choose to do so, but out of an eagerness and recognition of the one who loves us enough to save us, call us, equip us, be patient with us, We should delight in serving. And we should be delight in serving God and bringing all of the glory to him. You see, answering these questions matters because it impacts our motivation. When we examine and ask the question of who am I serving, we begin to understand why I'm serving to begin with. If the answer to who am I serving is myself, then those actions become selfish. They become self-seeking. If our serving is only about other people, well, then I stand a really good risk of pride building up in my life, and I start to see myself as this incredibly important person. But when we remember that we're ultimately serving God, then we desire to live and serve in a manner that brings him glory over ourselves. We can read teachings from Jesus in Matthew 25 to help us understand this idea that when we serve others, we're actually serving God. In this chapter of Matthew 25, Jesus is telling us of his return in glory and a judgment and separation of humanity that will take place. And there will be a group that he says he will bless. And he goes into this outline of saying, I'm going to bless you, I'm going to welcome you in because when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was naked, you gave me clothes. When I was afraid, when I was isolated, all of these different things, you met my needs. And Jesus says in that moment, there will be a question among this group that he's recognizing, the righteous. They're going to say, when did we ever see Jesus? When did we ever see God hungry and give him food? Or thirsty or in need of shelter? When did we ever, Jesus, when have we visited you? I don't understand. And Jesus responds, he says, truly I say to you, as you did to one of the least of these my brothers, you did to me. When we serve, when we meet the needs of others, when we utilize the gifts God's given us, we're serving God himself. So what is serving? It's a response to the work and presence of Jesus in our lives. And why do we serve? Because we're more in awe for what God is doing in us than through us. And who are we serving? While we're serving those around us, we are actively serving God himself. Yet this looks different for different people because we're all very different. And that's a good thing. Yes, we are united in the body of believers. We're united in the same Jesus, but we're all equipped in different ways. Now, we all can say that we all go through different periods of time where we're like, man, wouldn't it be easier if everybody could just think and act like me? It would be so easy. And then I take a step back and I'm like, man, what a disaster that would be. Like, we're diverse in our interests, in our skills, in our abilities, in our callings, and that's good because we need different types of people to fulfill different types of roles. That's good. It's healthy. It's biblical. And I think that's how God intends his family to be. But here's the thing. It's on all of us. It's not on some select chosen few to carry the serving load for everyone. It's not on the shoulders of the same people time and time again to serve in every capacity and need and opportunity that arises. That's not healthy. And yet, man, I'm guilty of this. That's church culture so much. We go to the same people time and time again because we know when we call, they'll say yes. And that's easier than training and equipping other people for the work of ministry along the way. Now, that's nothing against those of you who, when the phone rings, you say yes. I'm very thankful for you.
But we need to be bringing other people in. It's so easy to forget, to get lost in the tasks that we're called to invest in people, that we're called to train and equip. But it's hard because people are hard. Because you guys all think differently than I do. It's messy because we're messy. But man, the benefit is so much worth it. We want to help you find your place. We want to help you find the ways that God has equipped you, and we want to come alongside you and train you along the way. We're not just looking for bodies to fill spots. I call it the warm body approach. I have a need, you have a pulse. Great, we're done. No, we want to train and equip people for life of ministry. But how do we discern how God has equipped us? Now, the idea of discerning and understanding how God has equipped us, if we're honest, that's a separate message, a series, a class. That's a whole other thing. But I want to give us just a couple of starting points in this discerning process. The first is that serving is rooted in a right relationship with God. For this right relationship develops a right heart within us, and that compels us towards right behavior. Right? I didn't have a thesaurus. I just like that. Being in step with Jesus motivates us to start, but it starts with a relationship with Jesus. Now, can people serve or volunteer without a relationship with Jesus? Yes. And we see that throughout our culture. And God can still use that for his good, but it shouldn't be our default as people who are walking with Jesus. We see what the foundation oftentimes of good works can lead to. And we want to serve for an eternal impact in the kingdom of God. Biblical serving starts with knowing God through Jesus and allowing that relationship to be our motivation. The second in the discerning process is to spend time seeking the Lord through prayer and ask him to reveal to you the ways that he has equipped you. For those of you that have been following Jesus, we sometimes get nervous. I don't want to ask God to reveal stuff because he will. But that's good. That's part of growth and spiritual life in him. Study the scriptures. See what the Bible says about serving. Chapters such as 1 Corinthians 12 and Romans 12 are spots where the Holy Spirit has bullet pointed different types of service and what they look like. Ask others. Go to the people that know you the best and say, what do you see in me? Because I think we learn the most about ourselves when we ask the people that we're around. How have you seen God work in me? What do you see as my gifts? Now, if somebody does come to you and ask you to evaluate them, please remember to come at that also from a motivation of Jesus and lovingly be kind, but help them to see what God is doing in their lives. And the third, look for needs and try things out. It's totally good and welcome to look for needs and just try. And if it doesn't fit, that's not a failure, that's a learning opportunity, and we get to walk through that together. Find something that fills a need. Find something that brings you joy. Find something that uses the gifts and interests that you have. And sure, there will be opportunities for growth along the way, but an opportunity for growth is different than something not being the right fit. We all need to grow. But give yourself permission to try something new and see what happens. Ask for feedback, ask for help, ask questions. You know, so often we concern ourselves. We feel like the responsibility of the final product is solely on our shoulders. And that's the beauty of partnering with God. The final result is up to him. He just asks us to be obedient with him along the way. Now, we could continue talking. I could continue talking. But I think it's beneficial to hear from somebody else about their experience of serving and the journey connected to it. So I'm gonna ask the Hicks to come up and join me. We're gonna change up how things look up here for just a moment. So welcome to a little behind the scenes look at what's going on. It's all good. Come on up and grab a seat. And we're just gonna have an opportunity of allowing them to share a bit about how they serve. You've probably seen them around, maybe in kids ministry, maybe you're in their community group or in other areas. They do a lot. But I want to provide an opportunity to just hear from somebody else about what it looks like and what it can mean responding to what God is asking us to do. So thank you guys for joining me. Again, insider language, I want to work against it. Will you introduce yourselves to us this morning? Yeah, perfect.
We're the Hicks. We've been going here for 7 years. I think we were looking at, it was like from 2016.
Nice. That's awesome. So one of the areas that you guys serve in that if you have kids, you've probably seen, is kids ministry. What was this motivation for starting to serve in kids ministry?
So I grew up in a family where my parents served in kids ministry, and so of course you have kids. I had a 6-month-old when we started coming, and so we serve in kids ministry. So I don't know how I got slotted into check-in. I don't remember. And actually I had a throwback today, just if she's in here, Donita, I just saw today, came to visit. And so anyway, I was doing check-in right soon after we started coming here. And I didn't know that that was where God wanted me then. I think I just volunteered, and they said, we need help in check-in. And I said, great, I'll do that. And I didn't realize at the time that that's where I needed to be, because periodically I think maybe I should volunteer to actually work with the children in the classrooms. And then I try that. I do try it, and I do like a one time, and then I finish that, and I come back and I say, that is not for me. I don't enjoy that, and I don't feel God calling me to that, and I keep doing check-in. And check-in's been a great place for me to learn, number one, people's names, mostly. I'm sorry for people whose names I forget that I have known for a very long time. I even forget Harrington sometimes, and then I'm like, it's not your fault. But yeah, so I kind of fell into the check-in, and then after a while it turned into a family affair, and then Greg joined me at check-in too, so we both do that now.
That's great. I like, try something out. Nope, not at all. But I love that. And now, Greg, you also, you guys serve together in kids, but also you're one of our community group leaders. Tell me a little bit about how that came about in your life.
Yeah, so when we first came here, we were going through next steps, and we just kind of got slotted in with some other families, and they were like, hey, you guys are all in Lacey, you should form a community group, and so we did that. And that kind of worked great until COVID, and then after that, when we were starting again, Jimmy Maltese was starting a group, and he asked, hey, could you help lead, basically. But kind of the mentality that kind of always led us to community groups was I knew that we needed to have our family involved in a community group. I tend to view community groups in terms of being closer to the ground in families. Being in a big church, it allows us to have forced multiplication. We're able to do a lot more with more people coming together. But then that's not as close to the ground in terms of families. So having a community group allows you to really get into the messy details of all of our lives and having them overlap with each other. It allows us to be able to confess to one another, to be able to build each other up, to pray for one another, and that's something that I knew that my family desperately needed. And so in some ways, the best way to make that happen is to help facilitate that in some way, and so that's kind of what we did.
Oh, that's great. What have you seen as the impact for either of you or both of you during this season? Like, what's the impact in your life serving in kids or community groups? And really through that, how have you seen God work just through this, just being obedient?
So with kids ministry, I think just being able to be there with the kids, even though I'm not in a classroom with the kids, I'm still seeing them. I'm meeting the people that are working with the kids, seeing those people, the volunteers every week, having a conversation with them. And then, so knowing them, seeing the impact they're having on my kids' lives is just an encouragement, and seeing my kids come to know Jesus and know who brought them to Jesus and then who's encouraging them to be baptized is just a big encouragement that I don't think I was looking for when I volunteered at check-in. It's something that God, has given me that encouragement through this volunteering.
Yeah. So being able to learn everyone's names, Alana alluded a little bit there. Just I'm the worst with names. Like it'll take many, many times, and so just that repeated process of the embarrassment of having to ask that person that I see all the time, "What's your name again?" is very good for me, and it's a humbling experience, and it's something that allows me to connect with people. With community group, being able to see other families grow up around us, have our kids have other families right there in our lives, having our community group has people from a lot of different ages and a lot of different kind of backgrounds, and so getting to interact with people in that way is amazing, and is just a joy all the time just to be able to hear these people's lives.
So it's like we have we're getting to know the people that are impacting our kids with Jesus, and we're getting to build relationships with people, messy relationships, like real relationships, with people that we might not always have found naturally.
Yeah, our group is diverse, and we kind of just have been grouped together. But it can be awkward, it can be hard, but I think it's never, I never come away like, oh, I wish we weren't doing this. Mm-hmm. It's always like, wow, God is going to do something, and he's teaching us, and he's helping us to encourage other people in the church through hopefully our meeting together and our prayer together. It's been really valuable for our family.
That's good. So, as we're listening and hearing this, there's a lot of times we can feel, incapable, we feel hesitant, we don't know what to do. If we should jump in somewhere, what advice and encouragement would you guys have just from your own 7-year journey here so far?
Just trying something out, like we said, like seeing where God might have you, and just do something, pray about it, ask God. I was thinking about Jonah, so if God tells you to do something, you better do it. So this week, when God tells you, call or email Andrea about volunteering in kids ministry, you better do it. Or if you feel like I need to be in a community group, but there isn't one in my area, just say, I'll help lead, I'll help do whatever. So just being open to what God might have for you in this church and outside of this church, even if wherever God is calling you to volunteer.
Yeah, I think also being able to kind of know your limits in some way, because like what you were talking about, there's kind of these two extremes we like to go to, where really with a God-focused kind of view of vocation and serving, it's in the middle there, and we're not getting burnt out, and we're not just living in our flesh. And because I will tell you, if it was up to me, I would do nothing. I definitely would not. I would sit there, and I would be perfectly fine with it. And that's not healthy either. But yeah, you also need to be able to kind of know when to say no about things, or try something and then realize, no, that's not quite for me. But to kind of keep searching and find where you need to be is really important.
Well, when we're done today, if you have more questions about kids or community groups, now you know who to talk to. Can we give them a hand for joining us up front? Thank you guys so much. All right, well, I want to spend just the last couple minutes of our time together just talking a little bit more practically about ways that we can be involved. You've seen the cards sitting around you, and I genuinely want to invite you in to join us in ministry this fall at Westwood. Not to have it be the responsibility of somebody else, but like we just heard, we have needs, and we want to let you know what those are. We also still want to approach it from the right motivation of we're genuinely desiring to give God glory when we serve. But sometimes we also need to know what that can look like and what some tangible ways to serve are. And so we'll talk about that card in a second. I want to highlight very quickly 3 specific areas that we're looking for people to help serve this fall. The first is, in just a couple weeks, we're going to be starting our women's Bible studies on Tuesday mornings. And this is a great opportunity for the women of Westwood to come together to explore the Word of God, and we're so excited about it. And we have an amazing volunteer who's going to be doing a kids class for kids 5 and up so that especially our homeschool families can come and be a part of that and the kids can still be trained. But that leaves a gap of our little ones, kind of that 6 month to 5 years old, without somewhere specific to go. And I just want to put the ask out there. If there are people, maybe you're a guy that's retired, or maybe you have a very flexible schedule, or maybe you're a gal that does a Bible study, maybe one of our different ones that's not on Tuesday morning. I just want to ask, we're looking for some people to come forward who can really pour into the kids' lives, who can demonstrate Jesus to them and allow their moms the opportunity to be trained in righteousness as well. You've probably noticed we have a lot of littles around our church. The nursery is growing, which is exciting. We don't want, though, the ministry opportunities for fellowship and discipleship to cause some people to be restricted because they have those little kids. And so being able to provide those moms, many of us have walked through parenting. We know how valuable that time together can be. And so looking for some people to come forward and say, hey, either weekly, maybe monthly, or some other way, I'll offer to hear more about it. The second is our connections team, our front lobby, doors and greeters and ushers. I think that the hospitality is such a key element of ministry, and many of us have been impacted and influenced by those that have opened a door, that have seen us. We've walked in and we've felt seen and heard or known. And I want to invite others into that opportunity as well, to be able to fill our lobby with men and women who say, hey, I want to welcome other people into my home. And here as a family, this is our home, and we want to be able to do that. Maybe that's helping our families find the kids ministry area. Maybe it's helping them find a seat in here, or just get them connected in different ways, all with a desire to share Jesus with them. And the third is our help bank. Maybe you have skills that are needed, but not on a regular basis, maybe carpentry, plumbing, mechanical, something like that, and you say, hey, I'd be willing to put my name on a list so that when those need arise, you can call me and I'll come and serve and help out in that way. We want to be able to do that. And for all of these, I just want to share this quote from Billy Graham. He said, the highest form of worship is the worship of unselfish Christian service. He says, the greatest form of praise is the sound of consecrated feet seeking out the lost and helpless. And we can do that together. We can serve together. And so just to talk practically, we do have this card on your pew, or if your pew's all full, you can reach forwards or backwards and grab one off of another one. And I really just want us to consider ways. What is the Spirit of God prompting me? What are ways that I can serve this fall? And maybe I want to learn more. I want to give a little bit of relief. Filling this card out is not signing up for a long-term commitment. Filling this out is inviting a conversation to be able to be had with ministry leads or other people who can come alongside you, share about the responsibilities, hear about you. We still do vetting and training. This is not a shortcut around any of that. But this is just to be able to help us start a conversation and get you plugged in. But again, it's not about the warm body approach. It's genuinely our desire that we want to celebrate what God is doing in us, far more and above than what he's doing through us. And I want to just be able to invite us to have a conversation. So feel free, if you want to use this next worship song and our closing time as an opportunity to just prayerfully reflect. I invite you, fill this out with your contact information, mark the areas on here. My favorite box that we've added this time around, if you've seen other volunteer cards before, are I have something else in mind, check this. Maybe you've seen a need that we don't know about, or you know how God's equipped you. Man, let's have a fun, creative conversation. And you can drop those off at the welcome desk in the lobby. You can drop them in one of the black boxes. You can hand it to me if you want. Or maybe you need to go home and work through some discerning process and bring this back next week. That's totally great too. It's an invitation to join us in God's kingdom work here at Westwood as we celebrate what he is doing in us, as we look to serve the needs of one another. Let's pray. Lord God, we thank you. We thank you for this place. Lord, I thank you that there's opportunities for us to serve, because all that means is that you desire to partner with us, that you desire to use us. Lord, as we process through, as we seek you and trying to determine the ways that you have equipped us, may we be reminded that at the center of it is a celebration of what you've done in our lives. That everything we do from there on, Lord, is a reflection reflection of your saving grace and love. May we be compelled by you. May we celebrate you together this morning. And may this be a body known for meeting the